Hello everyone! In this video I want to talk about this idea, how video games could become boring as you get old, explained with neuroscience. Or at least that is going to be the first part, because then we need to go into a touchy subject to subsequently finish with what is the state of affairs in video games. So let's begin. The first thing I want everyone to keep in mind is that this is talking about the average human being. There is always going to be someone who's going to be quite old and still be entertained by video games. And the other way around, with youngsters getting bored with games. With that out of the way, one of the main factors for us to enjoy a specific something is how much dopamine is released while doing an activity. Yeah, that neurotransmitter swings the human mood in all kinds of matter. If it is in the right level, we are going to have good memory, mood, behavior, attention, and so on. With high doses, we are going to feel euphoric, full of energy, and be like a rabbit in Australia, if you know what I mean. Where on the other hand, with low doses, we are going to feel sad, unmotivated, with chances to have sleeping issues, among other symptoms. And well, I don't want this topic to be misunderstood, but many things out there can release huge amounts of dopamine, potentially becoming like a drug. It can be work, exercise, TV, music, another person, food, video games, and so on. On this front, video games makes us release dopamine in many moments. It can be in those extraordinary pieces of story that engages, its art, gameplay, music, or many other things along the journey. That is partially the reason why action, shooters, and colorful games are the most popular in general, as they trigger these effects easily compared with other genres. The thing here is that as we get old, the amount of dopamine released in our system is going to reduce. There are ways to combat those effects, but for the topic at hand, the average human being doesn't do anything on the matter. So, this is when video games can start to become boring, or repetitive in a sense, where adults start seeking fast-paced games or short games in general. But this could also be linked with the ton of chores that start to pile up in the average life. Wake up early, go to work, in the best case scenario, an 8.6 hours workday, take care of your children, food, extra chores, take a shower, get a bit relaxed in between, just start playing, and a knockout comes right away. So this is when people unconsciously start doing other things that doesn't take much effort, or where they can shut their brain off. Probably looking some series, movies, or something that doesn't take as much energy or concentration. They don't know they are not paying attention, but the human being likes to think they are. Add 90 minutes in your average sitting position, and there is going to be a 20% less of blood reaching your brain, which also makes you feel tired. So the body will start to yawn a lot, trying to take as much air as possible to keep you awake. At this point, it's worth talking about the touchy subject I mentioned at the beginning of the video. I'll try to handle the topic as best as possible because this platform can be picky, so if you understood, you understood. Dopamine reaches tragic ends in specific points in life. When people are around 12-15 years old, dopamine can be found on high doses, also a reason why youngsters can easily become addicts around those years. But when the prefrontal cortex reaches maturity, on one side around 20-21 years and on the other 25-26 years, there is going to be a slight drop. This also depends from particular cycles, because on one side, in each month there are going to be some peaks of dopamine. And on the other, well, in the best case scenario, they can reach like 60-70 years old and still behave like a teenager. This doesn't mean that having high doses of dopamine is the best, because if they are found on the prefrontal cortex, people tend to become dumber, inhibiting some processes such as solving mathematical problems, paying attention in an average time which is somewhere around 15 minutes or 21 minutes, and of course, taking wise choices in general. This production of dopamine can be altered depending from our habits, like drinking a bit too much, watching many small videos in pursuit of a cheap love, seeking dangerous situations, and so on. So everything in moderation, because you may also be the reason why video games turn boring in a faster way. On a dumb and interesting side note, intercourse with your significant other helps to reduce the number of neurons that potentially die each day, helping a lot with memory. So just keep that in mind, that dumbly this can also turn into another bad habit. Once that's said, the state of affairs in the video game industry is not that great, to be honest. Once you start analyzing video games in a critical way, you will find that there aren't many new things under the sun. So the industry tries to sell similar or the same ideas again and again. Think about it. Some old RPGs have but one job per character, but that idea right now can be perceived as lacking, because there are others that have the main job, then a secondary role, which also turns stagnant as you play games. So others try to implement much more freedom, like giving the player the chance to combine things among different classes. But these ideas can turn into something really convoluted, where people will feel intimidated with such approaches. Therefore, once again, things can turn a bit stagnant as you play more and more games, where probably they have solid ideas, but because you have seen something similar before, you directly mark it as boring. This happens a bit unconsciously, so people tend to abandon their games in pursuit of something to push a bit that dopamine, which can easily be found in the idea of playing a new game. So this cycle gets repeated among many games. This is where cell phone games scatter on the basic idea like training a dog. You do something slightly important and I'll give you something to keep progressing, or you can pay and skip those steps, so you can feel that slight rush of dopamine. And this is when the human beings tend to go back into the games that were entertaining for them. Nostalgia kicks in, but it is just a trick in many cases. I hope you found this video informative. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.